And you hear a lot of things from the world who talks about the church that hate gay people. Things like that. You hear it all the time. So what is that? What is that response?
Okay. I want you all to think of a world in which everyone, if the whole world just consisted of men, if everyone was a man, men would probably look at their bodies and be like, I don't understand why I'm made this way. Why am I made this way? But when we see a man, and then in the context of a woman's body, they're different and complementary, then it makes sense. Oh, our bodies are created so that we can bring life, so that we can love each other. And even on the microscopic level, we see that for a baby to be created, it requires a man's sperm and a woman's egg, even on the microscopic level. And so, yes, in every way that our nature shows us, men and women were created to be together. And a man was created to receive a woman's body, and a woman was created to receive a man's body. And like we were talking about, any use of our sexuality outside of its context is just that. It's just use. It's just a way for us to find pleasure, but pleasure is not the goal. God wants us to have love for one another and union with Him. And so, usually the world, our culture today offers two options for those with same-sex attractions. The first one, hide in the closet in fear, don't tell anyone, because they'll judge you. Or accept your gay identity and just make up your own rules when it comes to sex. It doesn't matter what you do. But nobody ever talks about the third option. And that is the option that we're actually all called to discern. We think of all of our popes, so many of the saints, Mother Teresa, they all chose a life of celibacy. And that means that they sacrificed their sexuality because they knew that God had something greater for them. And so they weren't going to live out their sexuality because they knew that God was calling them to a different lifestyle. For most of them, it was becoming a priest or a sister. But for those with same-sex attractions, they're still called to this life of purity. And it's not a lonely life. I think a lot of people think the church hates gay people because they think, well, if they're not able to get married, then they're just going to have this lonely, sad, depressing life. That's not true. And we are called, even though our catechism says, we are supposed to treat every person, especially those who are different from us, with the utmost respect and dignity. And everyone is a child of God. Their sexual orientation doesn't define who they are, but the fact that we all come from God, that defines who we are. And we're all made to love each other. But like I said, having a loving relationship, loving one another, doesn't mean that we have to have sex with one another. I love a lot of my friends, but that doesn't mean that I'm called to have sex with them. And it is hard to accept. I think that this is a very hard teaching, especially knowing that this, for a lot of people, is deeply ingrained and it's not something a lot of times that's chosen, and it feels like a very, very large sacrifice. But God does not desire for those people to be alone, but to be uplifted, to recognize their desires, to say, yes, I do have these attractions, but I'm going to offer a sacrifice and to live a pure life. And that brings about so much joy. I have friends that are living in ways that I know is not the best for them, just like I've done in the past. I've lived in ways that were not best for me, and I wish someone would say, Anna, stop. Like, there's so much more for you out there. Why are you doing this? But I have friends that are living together before getting married, of same sex and different sex. And I have friends in same-sex relationships. And we have to be very sensitive to knowing the right way to of course, we're supposed to show love to them all the time. And there is a right, sometimes there's a right time to bring up these topics about how we do want the best for them. And there is a plan that God has for them. And discerning how to
So, thank you, Anna. So what we're going to do right now, at the end of your rows, you have white half sheets of paper. If you could just kind of scatter them down your row, there's not going to be enough. There might not be enough for everyone, so you might have to share. But we're going to watch a short video. It's called Yes to You. Yes to You. And you have the lyrics. It's called spoken word poetry. Some of you may have heard of spoken word before. So you have the lyrics so that you can follow along, because it might be a little bit hard to hear. And the goal of this video is to show you, this is a Catholic priest. And those people, you guys, those people who, we see pictures of them, they hold up signs with like the word for a person who's struggling with or experiencing same-sex attraction. That's a bad word. And they say, you're going to hell. Those people are committing a grave sin. And remember that slide about Jesus embracing that person, hugging that person. This is how Jesus and every Christian should feel for every person, compassion. So this video is called Yes to You. Yes to You, spoken word.
Silence is golden, but there's a time to speak, and there are those shouting out views, but their arguments are weak. Let me get this out there and make it simple and plain. I never knew anyone who found freedom from a hate speech in Jesus' name. Reckless pastors who judge, condemn, leave his soul and leave alone, call to shepherd God's people, not cast the first stone. And other leaders do no favors by cowardly choosing silence. They fail to speak the truth and offer no guidance. Culture full of tension over the issue, so where does this leave us? Somewhere between awkward silence and gay bashing in the name of Jesus. And in the middle stands truth, a truth that can set us free, a God that calls us out of darkness to embrace our true identity. And a culture that glorifies sex and puts pleasure before all else. Is God the source of your identity, or is it your sexual self? And how do we identify and not accept a lie? Because sexual desire is just one piece of the pie. Identity is a choice, a lifestyle is something you embrace. Same-sex attraction doesn't define you, it can be set in place. A movement with semantics aimed to change and sway, there needs to be clarification when using the word gay. It doesn't mean one has attractions, or that they choose to act them out. The truth says there is a difference in the two that must be brought out. God loves you the way you are, and the truth can set you free. There is a difference between unchosen sexual attraction and chosen identity. In marriage, two become one flesh, one to life obligation. Two of the same, and unity can't reach this fulfillment of God's creation. Nature or nurture, you didn't choose the struggle. The church understands, and we walk through the times of trouble. The same church that says no when we fail to keep our sexual selves in check is the same church that says no when others try to take your respect. You never are alone, and the church offers you a home as it stands for what is true. Although the church says no to gay marriage, it still says yes to you.
Okay, so the church says yes to you. It says yes. And what the church is asking, just to clarify one more time, is not asking you to, if I was experiencing this, Mother Church, who cares about me, is not asking me, Megan, keep it inside of you, don't tell anyone, repress that feeling. She's also not asking me to make up my own rules and do whatever I want. She's asking me to embrace who I am. She says, it's okay. Tell people who you trust. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell a close friend that you're experiencing this, that I'm experiencing this. Mom, I struggle with this. But the church tells us, embrace your identity as a child of God first. You are a child of God and nothing else. People struggle with all kinds of stuff. heard the song before, and I want somebody, after you're done, if anyone feels comfortable maybe saying a word about what is like the mood of the song? What is the feeling being conveyed? It's like we're back in English class. So I'm going to take a look at it too. So what do you guys think? Does anyone have any words that like, what came to your mind reading these lyrics? You can raise your hand, maybe shout it out. Anybody? Yes, the gentleman in the red.
Depression.
Pressure. Depression. Repression. Sorry, my friend, what was it? Okay, I think all of those apply. I think the word that encapsulates all of those too is like maybe frustration, confusion, maybe like fighting, like justice. Like, doesn't it seem like this guy, you know, the rapper and his counterpart, Mary Lambert, they're like fighting for justice, right? They're saying same love. I should be able to love too. Any other words? What do you guys think? What describes this song? Nobody else? Okay, I think those are good. What I would say too, I would think that, as I said, confusion, but there's a resentment. I don't know if you guys caught it in here. There's definitely a resentment for the church and the church teaching on this. And we know why. It's because those people with signs, right? And it's because the people inside the church are confused about what Jesus is teaching. Right? And they're saying these mean things, so they have a right to be angry in a way. But so I want to point out what the truth says. And I want to look at a couple of these lyrics. If you go down to the bottom, there's a part in bold. It says, whatever God you believe in, we come from the same one. Strip away the fear, underneath it's all the same love. And then the title of the song is called Same Love. And so what does that mean? Like, yeah, I would agree. We all come from the same God. He's right. Whatever God you believe in, we come from the same one. Yes, I agree. Strip away the fear. Yes, I agree. There should be no fear. Underneath it's all the same love. And once again, yes, I agree, Macklemore. So what's the problem with the song then? We need to clarify what love is. Our culture is so confused. What is Macklemore saying that love is? Marriage. He wants to get married. She wants to get married. And she wants to sleep with her girlfriend. Sex. So, what if going back to my story earlier, like what if I chose this beautiful life of like giving up a family all for Jesus and to serve him and to become a sister for the church? Like, would that be a completely empty, lonely life, devoid of love? Who thinks yes, that I would have no love in my life? I hope not, because I'm not doing that. There's no love in my life. No. There's a confusion about what love is. Love doesn't always include sex. Sex is one physical expression of love that we already said is meant to be within marriage, free, total, faithful, and fruitful, and not everyone is called to that physical expression of love. Okay, so what is love then? Have you guys heard of the word? It's kind of a funny word. It goes agape. It's like the Finding Nemo. Does he say like escape? I don't know. That just reminded me of it. So agape love is different than eros love. Eros is like erotic love. Eros, you do not need eros love to survive. Sorry, Cupid, or the Greeks. You need agape love to survive. Right? John Paul II says we need it. Human beings are senseless if they don't have love in their life. So Macklemore's onto something. We need love, but we need agape love, which is God's unconditional love for us. And the unconditional love between friendships and people here. Yes, we need friendships. People who experience same-sex attraction are called to friendships, but not erotic love. nor our priests, nor our sisters, nor our consecrated singles. So, does that kind of make sense? Our culture is so confused about what love is. The last thing I want to point out is the first bold part at the top. It says, and I can't change even if I tried, even if I wanted to. This makes me so sad, right? She's trying to make me sad. She's like, Megan, you hate me as part of the church. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Mary, this is how I feel about you. I want to stand right here under Jesus and give you a hug too. It's not that I'm asking you to change. I'm asking you to realize your identity as a child of God and love Him first. But the problem is, our culture doesn't know Him, do they? They don't know Jesus. And so no wonder she feels frustrated. I would too if I thought sex was the way I have to survive life. So there is more to life, my friends. And sex is a beautiful gift for marriage. I mean, holy. It's a holy thing. And we're all about it. But save yourself as a gift for your future husband, okay? Or wife. Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot. Thanks for hanging out. I know we've kind of talked bigger picture things about marriage, singlehood, kind of consecrating yourself. But remember, we always start this all off. We all desire love, and the one desire in our hearts that won't go away is that desire for God. So I know we kind of did big picture, but now we want to do a little more day-to-day, talk about some of your questions that you guys asked from last time, and we're going to go into those now in more detail.
So a big question last time, and we get this from a lot of youth groups, is what is true love? You still haven't told me what love is. I'm in high school. I'm not getting married yet. I don't want to be a sister, or I'm not praying about that yet. Well, what is love then? How do I love? Like, does my boyfriend love me? Does my girlfriend love me? So, the answer to this question is this. Firstly, we need to clear the air that love sometimes comes with good feelings, but love is not just a feeling. Does that make sense? So love isn't like butterflies in your stomach. Like if I were to ask you, what is love? Like, don't say, if love makes me feel good, that's how I know I'm in love. No. Love is actually this. Whenever you're in doubt, consider all the situations in your life. Boyfriend, girlfriend, future boyfriend or girlfriend. Like, you don't need to be dating right now in high school, necessarily. So, this is the question to ask when the time comes. Does he or she care about what is best for you? And you're probably like, well, what is best for me? Like, whatever I want is what's best for me. No, sorry, that's not the answer. What is best for you? What did we talk about in the beginning? Heaven. Jesus is best for you, because He knows what's best for you. He created you. He molded you in His hands. In the beginning of time, He formed you in your mother's womb before you even knew Him. He knows what's best for you. So we're trying to get to heaven. That's what's best for you. Like, even Bruno Mars knows this in a kind of sort of weird way. You guys heard Bruno Mars song, Locked Out of Heaven? Like, I don't want to talk about that too much, because he's kind of got the wrong idea about heaven. But he even knows, like, that's where he belongs. I've been locked out of heaven. You know that song? Okay. So, even, like, all of us kind of know that we're made for heaven. We are. So he's kind of got the right idea. So, he or she is trying to get you to heaven. That's what's best. So look at these questions. They're a little bit cut off, but how is he or she helping you get to heaven? That's what you need to ask when you're asking, does he love me? Does she love me? Is she praying for you? Because if she's not worth your time. You need to get to heaven. She's supposed to be helping your soul, right? Soul and body. So if he's not praying for you, no. Dump him. I'm serious. Like, this is your soul, guys. Do you want heaven or hell? We have to heaven, yeah. I'd be working all day and be like, I'm tired. I'm like, hello, I just entrusted my soul to you. God's gonna entrust his soul to Katie. Katie's gonna pray for her to get to heaven. And he's stoked about it. And he trusts her. So that's the first thing. He should pray for you. Does he or she love you as Jesus would love you? And now you're like, okay, this is so cheesy, like, whatever. No, not cheesy at all. Jesus' love is very real. And if you're like, well, how does Jesus love? Step one, pray and ask him. He'll tell you, yeah, that's right, or no, sweetie, that's wrong. And he'll teach you. So start with prayer. That's the simple one there. Okay, another question. Ooh, these are good ones. For the youngins. How would you feel if it was your future daughter dating him? Or how would you feel if it was your future son dating her? So like, I've been in this situation, right, where I've been with a guy who I'm like, I can't seem to break up with him. We must be in love, but I know he's, but then like, as soon as someone told me this, well, would you want your future daughter dating him? And I'm like, no. Like, that's so silly, come on. Right? So, and what I'm getting at here is he should respect you, she should respect you, your body and soul, right? So that's just a little question to keep in the back of your mind. And if right now you're sitting here and you're like, no to any of those questions, okay. Last one, does he or she really want to protect your heart and your health? So the Mother Church knows what she's doing when she like prescribes these rules. You know, love one another as I have loved you. Like, wait to give yourselves to each other in marriage. She knows what she's doing. Because the health consequences for not waiting are pretty terrible. You can go to chastityproject.com and look them up. STDs, the abortion statistic is very high, and it's very sad for people who don't wait. So, and that being said, you know, any of these that you've made a mistake with, like, there is always second chances. That picture of Jesus hugging people, you just keep that right in your mind, boys and girls. That is you in that picture. So come back, come back. This is just like a good rule of thumb. Love seeks the good of the beloved, right? Does he or she care about what's best for you, even when it's hard or unpopular? Even when it's hard or unpopular. Okay, second question was, yes, Anna's going to answer this one.
How far is too far? Everyone's like, yeah. I mean, it's a tough question because sometimes it's the wrong question. I wouldn't ask, how far can I go into this burning building before I start, damaging my lungs? I would just want to stay away from it. So really, I mean, how can we live into it? And the other thing that was with this, I think, is kissing okay in dating. And so I've been in a relationship now almost 10 months, and my boyfriend does all of that. He prays for me. We pray together every night, which is so important. And when we first started dating, we had a talk about our boundaries and what was best for one another, really. Is it best for him to sleep with me? No, because he wants to leave me to heaven, and we're not married. And so just having a talk about what your boundaries are. These are some helpful guidelines. Now, I'm going to preface it with this. Sexual arousal is for marriage. Sexual arousal is like something that you do that makes you want more, and it makes you want to go further. And anytime that feeling comes up, you know when it does, and you want to stay away from that while you're dating. And so some helpful guidelines. Keep your kisses simple, no passionate kissing, no kissing below the neck. That's not really necessary to show your affection for one another. Oh, and I like this one. Don't touch what you don't got, okay? We're talking about body parts here. It's really simple. Don't touch what you don't got, because what happens when you do sexual arousal? I know everyone's like, oh, it's awkward to talk about, but it's very important. It's a very important part of respect. knowing you better, knowing your family, and at the very top, engagement, marriage, and then sexual intimacy is at the top. And there are so many people these days that meet, and they go right to the top of the pyramid. You know, they'll meet at a bar, go right to the top of the pyramid, sexual intimacy. What happens to those relationships? They fall. Why? There's no foundation. You have to have that foundation if you want a lasting, loving relationship. It's another way to know if it's real love. Is he willing to go through these stages with you? Or is she willing to go through these stages? Friendship first, knowing each other better. And for friends, you know, for your brothers or your sisters, you know what's best for them. You're not about to take advantage of them. And so going through those steps is really important. Oh, and the best kiss is the one that has been exchanged 1,000 times with the eyes before it meets the lips. I like that quote.
I just want to add to that, we know it's hard, and we're speaking from our own experiences, and when you do that, if you take it too far, it just leads to sexual frustration, and it's not a good thing. So, we know it sounds like a hard teaching, we know it's out there, but we just want to bring it on that way. Last time I talked about pornography and masturbation a lot. We were talking about it. I shared my struggles with her, and we talked about the reason why it's so bad, how dangerous it can be, how you look at it once, how addictive it can be, and when you look at pornography, when you teach yourself this is what love really is, it's setting a precedent that is very hard to get away from, and it affects your future relationships. One of the questions that was asked was, well, how do I stop pornography and masturbation? How do I stop that? And I want to talk about 3 things, 3 pointers that I've used to help and that I've brought about and I know work. The first one is get rid of the stuff. Get rid of the stuff. If your temptation, I'm asking, when is your temptation? If your temptation is late at night in your room with your computer when the door is shut, or is your temptation with magazines you have hidden away in a certain part of your house that no one else knows about? Or is it with your iPhone in the morning? What is your temptation? The first thing is, if it's magazines, get rid of them out of the house. Get rid of them. If it's a computer in your room, take the computer and get it out of your room and put it in the living room. If it's an iPhone that you struggle with, we'll talk about how we can put filters on it in a couple minutes, but charge it somewhere else. Don't give yourself that temptation to fight because it's hard to overcome. Don't give yourself that. Get rid of the stuff. Number 2 is prayer. For me, the only way that I was able to overcome and make progress with the pornography addiction I had was realizing that I can't do it myself. That I'm not strong enough to stop. And it's asking God to come into my heart and into my life and ask Him to help heal me. So we have to have prayer. And even if it's just sitting down and just getting on your knees and asking God, saying, listen, this is in my life. I need you to take this out. Ask that prayer. Scripture, as Catholics, we are bad at Scripture. We shouldn't be. We should have it. Every day before I go to work, I make time to read Scripture. We should know that. We should have verses memorized. When temptation occurs, we should be able to respond and have a verse we go to. And the third kind of prayer I want to talk about is the rosary. I talked about it last time. Every day I walk around with a rosary in my pocket. I pray a rosary every single day. And I would encourage each and every one of you to do so. If you can't do a whole rosary, do one a week. Do part of one. Do a decade. Do something. But when it comes to pornography and purity, ask our Blessed Mother to help show you the way. We know it works. It takes commitment and it takes a discipline to be able to do that. The third thing is accountability. And I want to encourage all the parents that are here tonight, if you truly love your son or daughter, then if you truly love them, then I would tell you, I ask you to please look at what's going on with the internet. This is a battle your kids are facing that you never had to face. is so quick. It is there. If you truly care about your kids, please look at what they're looking at. And a lot of times, they're in a struggle, they don't know what to do, and they need your help. So what is it? Well, there are filters out there. I use Covenant Eyes, covenanteyes.com. For my iPhone, for my internet, there's accountable to you. There's so many different engines out there that can be